What if I told you that in the heart of Europe, there exists a people whose origins are one of history's most enduring mysteries? Imagine a group whose language has no relatives, whose traditions feel like echoes from a forgotten era, and whose DNA reveals secrets older than recorded history. These people are the Basques, a community tucked away in the rugged landscapes of northern Spain and southern France. For centuries, historians, geneticists, and linguists have been captivated by their story. How did this small population preserve its identity through millennia of wars, migrations, and cultural upheavals? How did their language, Euskera, survive while countless others vanished or transformed? And why do the Basques seem genetically distinct, even when compared to their neighbors? This isn't just a tale of ancient history. It's a living puzzle that scientists are only now beginning to piece together. Recent breakthroughs in genetics and archaeology have brought us closer than ever to uncovering the truth about the Basques' origins. Yet, the deeper we dig, the more we realize just how unique and how resilient this community truly is. In this journey, we'll explore their untold story, from their prehistoric roots to their linguistic enigma and the secrets encoded in their DNA. The Basques aren't just a part of history. They are key to understanding the ancient past of all of Europe. So, buckle up, because this is a story that's as mysterious as it is fascinating. And it all begins here. Nestled between the rugged peaks of the Pyrenees and the windswept shores of the Bay of Biscay lies the homeland of the Basques, a region unlike any other in Europe. Stretching across northern Spain and southern France, this is a place where ancient traditions endure, and a unique identity thrives despite the tides of history. But who exactly are the Basques? The Basques are a people defined by their distinctiveness. Their language, Euskera, stands apart as the only non-Indo-European language in Western Europe. Unlike French, Spanish, or any of their neighbors' tongues, Euskera has no known relatives. It's a linguistic island in a sea of interconnected languages, a living relic of a time long before Indo-European languages dominated the continent. Their customs are equally unique. In rural villages, you'll find traditions that have been passed down for generations, like the sport of tranza, where competitors use massive saws to slice through tree trunks in feats of strength and skill. The Basques have a fierce pride in their heritage, celebrating festivals, dances, and rituals that have remained unchanged for centuries. But what truly sets the Basques apart is their resilience. Through millennia of conquests and migrations, from the Roman Empire to the Islamic occupation of Iberia, the Basques have held fast to their language, their traditions, and their sense of self. This resistance to assimilation has created a community that feels like a window into Europe's distant past. Yet, for all their distinctiveness, the Basques aren't isolated. They share deep connections with Europe's ancient history, and their survival offers a rare glimpse into the lives of early Europeans. But how did they come to be so unique? To answer that question, we need to delve into their language and the mysteries it holds. Euskera, the Basque language, is one of the world's greatest linguistic enigmas. Spoken by nearly 1 million people today, it's unlike any other language in Europe or anywhere else on Earth. While French, Spanish, and other European languages trace their roots back to a shared Indo-European family, Euskera stands alone. It has no known relatives, no ancestral connections to any language we've ever identified. In the world of linguistics, that's practically unheard of. So where did Euskera come from? Over the centuries, scholars have proposed countless theories, but none have been definitively proven. Some suggest it could be a distant cousin of ancient Iberian, a language spoken by early inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. Others have attempted to link it to the Caucasian languages of Georgia, pointing to similarities in grammar and structure. But these comparisons often fall apart under scrutiny, leaving Euskera firmly in its own category. What we do know is that Euskera's roots are ancient, likely predating the spread of Indo-European languages. It's a linguistic time capsule, preserving features from an era long before most of Europe's modern tongues even existed. But its survival is just as remarkable as its origins. Throughout history, languages have risen and fallen with empires. Latin evolved into French and Spanish. Celtic languages were pushed to the fringes of the British Isles. Yet Euskera endured, passed down from generation to generation, even as the world around it changed dramatically. How did it manage to survive? The answer lies in the Basques' unique isolation. For centuries, Euskera acted as both a cultural and geographic shield. Its complexity made it nearly impossible for outsiders to learn, while the rugged Pyrenees Mountains provided a natural barrier against invaders. Even today, the language is deeply tied to the Basques' identity. It's more than just words. It's a symbol of their history, resilience, and independence. But Euskera isn't just a linguistic relic, it's also a key to understanding the Basque genetic and cultural story. To truly uncover the mysteries of the Basques, we must turn our attention to what their DNA tells us about their past. If the Basques' language is a mystery, their DNA is an even deeper puzzle. For decades, scientists have been fascinated by what sets the Basques apart from their European neighbors. From their distinct physical traits to their unique genetic markers, the Basque genetic story has baffled and intrigued researchers for generations. One of the most striking discoveries is the prevalence of haplogroup R1b in Basque men. This Y chromosome lineage is found across Europe, but it reaches its highest concentration in the Basque population, over 80%. What's even more intriguing is the specific subclade they carry, known as R1b-DF27, which appears to have originated around 4,200 years ago. It's a lineage that's both ancient and remarkably consistent, suggesting the Basques have maintained a genetic continuity rarely seen in other populations. But what truly sets the Basques apart is their genetic isolation. Studies show that since the Iron Age, over 3,000 years ago, the Basques have experienced minimal gene flow from surrounding populations. While other parts of Europe were shaped by waves of migration, from Roman conquests to the Islamic expansion, the Basques largely stayed the same. Their DNA carries no trace of the North African or Middle Eastern influences seen in other Iberian populations. Even the massive migration of Indo-European herders from the Eurasian steppe, which reshaped much of Europe's genetic landscape during the Bronze Age, left only a faint mark on the Basques. What explains this isolation? Geography and culture played crucial roles. The Pyrenees Mountains formed a natural barrier, making the Basque homeland difficult to access. Meanwhile, their unique language, Euskera, served as a cultural firewall, discouraging outsiders from integrating into their society. Despite their genetic distinctiveness, the Basques aren't entirely separate from the rest of Europe. Their genes reveal strong connections to ancient populations, particularly the Neolithic farmers who brought agriculture to Europe thousands of years ago. These farmers mixed with local hunter-gatherers to form the genetic foundation of the Basques. But unlike other groups, the Basques remained relatively untouched by later migrations, preserving this ancient genetic heritage. Their DNA also reveals a fascinating link between geography and genetics. Within the Basque Country, genetic differences can be observed between neighboring provinces, reflecting the same patterns seen in their dialects of Euskera. It's a testament to how deeply intertwined their language, culture, and genetics are, and how isolation has shaped them over millennia. But the Basque genetic story is only part of the picture. To understand how they became the people they are today, we must look even further back in time, to their ancient roots in the prehistoric past. To uncover the true origins of the Basques, we need to journey back thousands of years, to a time before written records, when Europe was a vastly different place. The Basque story begins in the prehistoric past, where the foundations of their unique identity were laid. Modern scientific studies have revealed that the Basques are direct descendants of Neolithic farmers who arrived in the Iberian Peninsula around 7,000 years ago. These early farmers brought agriculture with them, transforming Europe and laying the groundwork for settled civilizations. But the Basques' ancestors didn't stop there. They mixed with the Mesolithic hunter-gatherers already living in the region, creating a population that was part farmer, part hunter, a blend of two ancient ways of life. The remains of this ancestry can still be found in Basque DNA today. Skeletons discovered in the El Portolan cave in Atapuerca, northern Spain, provide a remarkable glimpse into this ancient population. These individuals, who lived between 3,500 and 5,500 years ago, are the closest known relatives of the modern Basques. Their genetic profiles show a unique combination of Neolithic and Mesolithic traits, a mix that set them apart from other European populations. But what's even more remarkable is what happened next. While much of Europe was reshaped by migrations and cultural changes, the Basques became increasingly isolated. Starting around 4,500 years ago, a massive migration of pastoralists from the Eurasian steppe swept across Europe, introducing Indo-European languages and fundamentally altering the genetic makeup of many populations. Yet, The Basques were largely untouched by this wave. Their remote homeland in the Pyrenees shielded them from these migrations, allowing their ancient genetic heritage to remain intact. This pattern continued through the ages. When the Romans expanded into Iberia, they left a lasting cultural and genetic legacy in much of the region, but not in the Basque Country. Similarly, during the Islamic occupation of Spain, North African influences spread across the peninsula. Yet, once again, the Basques remained unaffected. Their combination of geographic isolation and cultural resilience preserved their unique identity while the world around them changed. But the Basque story isn't just one of survival, it's also a story of connection. While they have remained genetically distinct, they are not entirely separate from the rest of Europe. Their DNA provides a vital link to Europe's ancient past, helping us understand how agriculture, migration, and adaptation shaped the continent. The Basques' roots are a testament to the resilience of their people and the power of their homeland to protect and preserve their way of life. As we move forward, we'll explore how geography, language, and culture combine to create a shield of isolation, ensuring that the Basques' ancient heritage endured through the millennia. The story of the Basques is inseparable from the landscape they call home. Nestled between the Pyrenees Mountains and the Atlantic Ocean, the Basque Country is a rugged and isolated region, a natural fortress that has safeguarded its people and their culture for thousands of years. But how did geography shape the Basques' identity and ensure their survival? The Pyrenees are not just a striking backdrop, they've acted as a shield, protecting the Basques from outside influence. Throughout history, mountains have been a natural barrier to movement and conquest. For the Basques, these towering peaks kept invading armies and migrating populations at bay, allowing them to preserve their unique culture and language while much of Europe underwent dramatic change. But geography wasn't the only factor. The Basques' language, Euskera, played a crucial role in their isolation. Unlike the Latin, Germanic, and other Indo-European languages spoken by their neighbors, Euskara stood out as entirely different and deeply complex. This made it difficult for outsiders to integrate into Basque society. Even as Roman culture spread throughout Iberia, Euskara remained a powerful tool of cultural separation. Within the Basque Country itself, the story becomes even more fascinating. Linguistic differences between provinces created internal divisions, with distinct dialects of Euskara developing over time. Studies show that these dialectical divides align with subtle genetic differences between Basque regions, reflecting a deep-rooted compartmentalization. This means that even within their small geographic area, the Basques maintain distinct identities across local communities, further contributing to their overall isolation. This unique combination of natural barriers and cultural factors has kept the Basques distinct from their neighbors for millennia. When other parts of Europe were reshaped by migrations, conquests, and cultural blending, the Basques stood firm, protected by their mountains, their language, and their way of life. However, this isolation wasn't just a defensive strategy, it was a source of resilience. It allowed the Basques to preserve traditions, values, and a sense of community that feel ancient even today. Their homeland became not only a place to live but a symbol of their identity, deeply tied to who they are as a people. The Basque shield, both geographical and cultural, has made them one of Europe's most enduring mysteries. But as we've seen, it has also given them a unique perspective on history, one that connects them to the ancient past while keeping them distinct in the modern world. The Basques' unique identity has inspired countless myths and misconceptions over the centuries. For a people so distinct, it's no surprise that their origins have been woven into fantastical tales and theories. But how much of what we think we know about the Basques is true, and how much is pure fiction? One of the oldest and most enduring myths is the idea that the Basques are the pure descendants of Europe's earliest inhabitants. This claim suggests that the Basques have remained unchanged since the Paleolithic era, making them a direct link to the continent's ancient hunter-gatherers. While it's true that the Basques have genetic ties to these early populations, modern studies have shown that their ancestry is far more complex. Rather than being frozen in time, the Basques are the result of a unique blend of Neolithic farmers and Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, shaped by millennia of isolation. Another popular legend ties the Basques to the Bible. According to a 16th-century myth, the Basques descended from Tubal, the grandson of Noah, who settled in the Iberian Peninsula after the Great Flood. While this story was embraced by early Basque historians seeking to glorify their origins, it's now regarded as little more than creative folklore. Then there's the claim that Euskera, the Basque language, is linked to the languages of the Caucasus, particularly Georgian. At first glance, the comparison seems plausible. Both Euskera and Georgian are ergative languages with pluripersonal verbs, and both have ancient, isolated roots. But modern linguists have debunked this connection. These similarities are more likely the result of chance or shared linguistic structures, not a common origin. Perhaps the most controversial theory is the idea of the bold European substratum, proposed by Theo Veneman. This hypothesis suggests that Basque-like languages once dominated Europe before the spread of Indo-European languages. Veneman argued that Basque toponyms, or place names, can be found across the continent. However, this theory has been heavily criticized by scholars, including the prominent linguist Larry Trask, who pointed out major flaws in its methodology. So, why do these myths persist? For many, the Basques' distinctiveness is so striking that it seems to demand an extraordinary explanation. Their language, culture, and genetics are so unique that it's tempting to link them to ancient legends or lost civilizations. But as science continues to shed light on the Basques' true origins, we see a story that's just as fascinating as any myth, a story of resilience, adaptation, and survival. By unraveling these myths, we gain a clearer understanding of who the Basques truly are. Their history doesn't need embellishment. It's a remarkable tale of its own, rooted in the interplay of genetics, geography, and culture. And as modern research continues, the real story of the Basques is proving to be far more compelling than any legend. In recent years, advances in genetics and archaeology have unlocked new chapters in the story of the Basques, revealing details that were once hidden beneath the surface. These modern discoveries are helping to piece together the puzzle of how the Basques came to be, and why they remain so unique. One of the most groundbreaking studies analyzed DNA from ancient human remains found in the El Portolan cave in Atapuerca, northern Spain. These skeletons, dating back over 5,000 years, are genetically closest to today's Basques. This finding confirmed that the Basques are direct descendants of Neolithic farmers who mixed with Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. However, what sets them apart is what happened next. While other European populations experienced waves of migration and genetic mixing, the Basques became isolated. This genetic seclusion is particularly evident when comparing the Basques to their neighbors in Spain and France. Unlike most Iberian populations, Basque DNA shows little to no influence from major historical events like the Roman Empire, the Islamic occupation, or even the Bronze Age migrations from the Eurasian steppe. These migrations reshaped much of Europe, introducing Indo-European languages and new genetic markers, but the Basques remained largely untouched. Even more intriguing is the role of genetic drift and endogamy in shaping the Basques' distinct identity. Endogamy, or marrying within a close community, was a natural consequence of their isolation. Over time, this practice, combined with their small population size, amplified unique genetic traits while minimizing external influences. It's why the Basques are genetically distinct yet still fit within the broader tapestry of European ancestry. One particularly interesting discovery is the connection between the Basques and Sardinians. Like the Basques, the Sardinians were isolated for thousands of years, preserving genetic traits from Europe's earliest farmers. However, there's a key difference. The Sardinians lacked the hunter-gatherer ancestry that defines the Basques. This contrast highlights the Basques' role as a genetic bridge between Europe's prehistoric past and its present. Another surprising finding is how closely genetics align with language and geography. Within the Basque Country, genetic studies reveal subtle differences between provinces, mirroring the distinct dialects of Euskera spoken in these regions. This connection underscores the intertwined nature of Basque genetics, language, and culture, a unique relationship that has been preserved for millennia. Modern science has also debunked earlier misconceptions about the Basques. For example, while it was once thought that the Basques were a pure Paleolithic population, research now shows that they are a blend of ancient influences, shaped by a combination of adaptation and isolation. This insight adds depth to their story, showing how resilience and geography combined to create their distinct identity. These discoveries are not just about the past, they are also reshaping how we think about the Basques' role in Europe's history. Their genetic legacy provides a rare glimpse into the lives of Europe's earliest inhabitants, offering clues about migration, adaptation, and the survival of ancient cultures in a rapidly changing world. The more we learn about the Basques, the more we realize how much they can teach us about human history and the forces that shape it. The story of the Basques is more than just a fascinating tale of survival. It's a powerful reminder of how history, culture, and identity are interconnected. Their resilience offers lessons that go far beyond their own community, speaking to universal themes of preservation, adaptation, and the human spirit. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Basques' legacy is their ability to maintain their identity in the face of immense change. While empires rose and fell around them, the Basques preserved their language, traditions, and way of life. This wasn't by accident. Their isolation, both geographic and cultural, played a major role. But it was also their determination, a conscious effort to pass down their heritage from one generation to the next, that ensured their survival. This resilience has broader implications for understanding how small, marginalized communities can endure in a globalized world. The Basques show us that identity isn't just about where you come from. It's about what you choose to preserve and protect. In a world where cultural homogenization often threatens to erase smaller traditions, the Basques stand as a testament to the value of diversity and the strength of local heritage. Their genetic story also offers lessons about the shared history of humanity. By studying the Basques, scientists have gained insights into the migrations and adaptations that shaped Europe's past. They remind us that every population, no matter how unique, is part of a larger tapestry. The Basques may have been isolated for millennia, but their story is deeply intertwined with the broader narrative of human history. But perhaps the most powerful lesson from the Basques is the importance of embracing what makes us different. In a world that often emphasizes unity and sameness, the Basques show us the beauty of standing apart. Their distinct language, traditions, and even their genetic traits are a source of pride, not division. It's a perspective that feels increasingly relevant in today's multicultural societies. As we continue to uncover the secrets of the Basques, their story serves as both a window into the past and a guide for the future. They teach us that it's possible to honor tradition while embracing change, to stay rooted in heritage while forging new connections. Their journey isn't just a story of survival, it's a celebration of what makes us human. The Basques' legacy challenges us to think about what we value, what we pass on, and what stories we want to tell. Their past isn't just their own. It belongs to all of us, a reminder of the strength and beauty that comes from diversity. And as science continues to explore their origins, one thing is clear. The Basques' untold story is far from over. The Basques are more than just a historical curiosity. They are living proof of the resilience of identity. Their story, stretching from the prehistoric past to the modern day, is one of survival, adaptation, and profound uniqueness. From their enigmatic language, Euskera, to their genetic continuity that has endured for millennia, the Basques remind us of the incredible diversity within humanity's shared history. As we've seen, the Basques' origins are tied to some of the earliest farmers and hunter-gatherers in Europe. Their DNA carries the echoes of ancient migrations, yet it also tells the story of isolation, a shield that preserved their distinctiveness while the rest of Europe changed around them. Their mountains, their language, and their traditions all acted as barriers, but also as bridges to their past. But what makes the Basques truly remarkable isn't just their history, it's their persistence. In a world where ancient cultures often disappear under the weight of time, the Basques have held on, not just surviving but thriving. They've proven that being different isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Today, the Basques continue to inspire scientists, historians, and anyone curious about the past. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, showing us that even in an age of advanced technology, there are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And perhaps that's the most exciting part of all. The Basque story isn't finished. It's still unfolding, with each generation writing its own chapter in the legacy of this extraordinary people. So, what can we learn from the Basques? They show us the power of resilience, the value of diversity, and the importance of preserving what makes us unique. In their story, we see not just the history of a single group, but a glimpse into the complex and beautiful tapestry of humanity itself. As we close this journey into the Basques' untold genetic story, one thing becomes clear. The past is never truly gone. It lives on in our genes, in our languages, and in the traditions we choose to keep alive. The Basques are living proof of that, a people whose roots run deep, whose history is rich, and whose story will continue to inspire for generations to come.